Hello gamers and welcome back to Idiosin's Let's Play of Assassin's Creed Origins, Parte 178, Part 178. I'm back home. I'm back at my apartment and it feels like I haven't been here in a year. You guys ever notice that when you go away from your home for like a long period of time, in this case 7 days, the longer you are away from home, the more it feels like you're moving somewhere else when you come back? Like, literally, I think my brain subconsciously started to think I lived at my mom's house. Because it feels really weird to be back. But I'm back and the acoustics are shitty. And the night is just splendid, man. I went to go get my mail. And they were putting the mail in the mailbox at 9:30 at fucking night. So I don't know how. I've got like 7 days worth of mail in there. I gotta get it. And, yeah. And I found out, I got an email from my teacher's aide in my Colonizer and Colonized course for African American complet, saying that the email I had sent her weeks ago regarding my missing works cited page didn't really matter all that much because the works cited page was only worth 5% of the grade of the paper. Yeah, only 5%. Only 5. Only a half a letter grade, right? So I got a 73% on that final paper. Partially because she said I had grammar, punctuation, and word choice errors, and that I needed to look at the paper and her comments. So I go to the paper, right? In the rubric, it merely says proofread. In the paper, there is only one instance of highlighting, and it's over the word pretentious, as in the pretentious aspirations of the African elite in post-colonial literature of the 70s and 80s, as if that's not a correct word choice. She does not put liner notes on the words saying why pretentious was wrong, so I can only assume that she is psychologically projecting her own pretentiousness, seeing as she is a 35-year-old woman who is still a student at UCI, grading a paper for a Nobel Prize nominated African American professor. She's doing the grading. She. Now, I'm not sexist, but I'll tell you something. She's not fucking qualified. And she doesn't even elucidate. Is that the wrong word too, LaShonda? She doesn't even elucidate on the reasons why I fucked up my word choice, my grammar, and my punctuation, even though, according to my fucking resources, it was fine. It was flawless. So I'm pretty mad about that. I got a B- in the course, and it's pretty much irreversible at this point. She even got so bitchy as to say, I did get your email about the works cited page, but you also had 2 weeks to make this paper perfect. And for the purpose of demonstrating how I think that she was being a giant cunt, I also, and this is admittedly very dumb, I also forgot the works cited page for my final paper in True Crime. And I got an A on that paper, and I got an A in the course. So yeah, do you really think it was that big of a deal? I don't think so. I think I could have sent her a works cited page. I'm pretty sure that my citations were correct, and should have been obviously correct to her, given the fact that all of these fucking works which I cited were in-course works. Works that she had access to. Works that she had sitting next to her on her desk when she was fucking grading those papers. So I don't think it was that big of a deal. And really, I think this all goes back to the beginning of class when I defended, although admittedly in a flawed fashion, Conrad's intentions of writing Heart of Darkness. I said that I don't think he was necessarily being racist. I thought he was being an ironist a la Mark Twain. And yeah, in hindsight, I think I was wrong. But just because I'm a white guy defending another white author, I really think that this BLM fucking white-hating black nationalist bitch fucking gave me a shitty grade on my final paper, which I thought was a good ass paper. So yeah, I said it. I don't give a fuck. That's how mad I am about this shit. I'm so sick of these fucking race politics dictating how I get treated. White is the new fucking slave, let me tell you, dude. Because nowadays, white people get treated like fucking psychopathic maniacs. They get treated like fucking white nationalist assholes just for being white. And then they get laughed at if, you know, they try and fight for black activism because it's not their struggle. So, yeah, you know what? This has really brought out a lot of latent fucking frustration that I felt, but whatever. Whatever, right? It's no big deal. No big deal. I have a 20-minute long video on this one, so I thought I'd just vent a little bit and get it out there. And put out something that, you know, I feel passionately about. And if you want to debate this with me, I mean, by all means, I'm willing to. I'm not a racist. I'll just say it. I know that there are certain comedic viewpoints which say that if you have to say you're not a racist, you probably are one, but it's probably not true. I just feel, I don't know. I feel fucking frustrated. I feel pretty damn frustrated by this. So yeah, my night's been going good, and I think one of my roommates ate one of my bags of chips, like my big-ass family-sized bags of chips, while I was gone. Possibly drink some of my Cokes. So yeah, wonderful night. Merry Christmas, guys. Happy New Year. Anyway, yeah, I thought I'd just while away some time there. We're at the Roman Acropolis. We're still trying to get in there. Still estimating this as being a normal mission in a game with, you know, an unmixed bag of, you know, styles. But they thought that they could do boss battles in this game. I think they failed miserably. Last night, I saw The Last Jedi. Absolutely stupendous movie. So damn good. And I know this is somewhat of a sacrilegious opinion, but Episode 7 was my favorite, and now Episode 8 is my favorite. You can say all you want about Episodes 4 through 6 and how wonderful they were, but they didn't really tickle my fancy, but these movies are tickling my fucking fancy, dude. I thought there were flaws. I mean, I didn't really like Rose. I didn't really like the Finn-Rose dynamic. I didn't really like, the Casino Planet parts with, like, freeing the animals and shit like that. That was pretty dumb. I didn't like that. But, I mean, there were so many other things. Benicio del Toro in the most unexpected role of the year, and it just killing it. This, like, Lynchian vibe, because they have Laura Dern, one of the writers, taking over for General Leia, and Justin Theroux doing a cameo performance as the codebreaker that they couldn't get. By the way, when I say that Laura Dern took over for Leia, I'm not saying Leia died. I'm not spoiling that much, so don't worry. The Rey and Kylo dialogues were amazing. Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker, amazing. Yoda coming back, amazing. The fight scenes, pretty great. That fucking scene where Laura Dern light speeds into Snoke's fucking Star Destroyer, or whatever it's called. God damn, that was so cool. Ah, it was so fun. It was such a fun movie. 2.5 hours makes it the longest Star Wars in history, but it flew by. It just absolutely flew by, because Rian Johnson did a wonderful job of making that a visually stunning and exciting movie. And my waifu, however you pronounce it, Daisy Ridley, looking fine as ever. She didn't make out with Finn, though. I was pretty disappointed about that. So I wanted to bring up something. I was talking to my mom as she drove me home today, and we were discussing sort of the oddballs of society, because I consider myself to be one. I was discussing, you know, with her why I've chosen YouTube as a platform, why I want this to be my career. And we were having this great discussion about why artists are the way that they are, why, you know, artistic platforms are often the haven of the eccentric and the self-absorbed and stuff like that. You know, self-absorbed in a positive way. And, I was just thinking about all the artists that I know of that are really eccentric and bizarre. You know, like, for instance, I'm reading Mr. Mercedes by Stephen King, which is a pretty good book. And I was thinking about Stephen King's career and, like, how he's presented himself as a person in society. And, we were talking about archetypes, about how everyone kind of fits into a certain mold or stereotype. And how eccentric people are somewhat alarming to others because they tend to evade those kind of categorizations. And I was thinking, man, like, you look at a guy like Stephen King, what do you say, what is his type? Like, what do you say Stephen King is like? Like, what kind of a guy is Stephen King? And the honest answer is, he's not anything. He's a fucking weirdo. That's what you call him. Like, his hairstyles are just, like, they alternate every now and then, but they're always alarming. His bone structure, it looks half like lupine or something. He wears, like, those glasses that make his eyes look all tiny and squinty, and he has the creepiest mind of anyone in this fucking country, in my opinion. God, I curse a lot. I'm talking to God when I say that. You know, and it's just... But he has somehow been wildly successful. And as you know, my name is Idiosin. And it's short for idiosyncratic. It's kind of a catchy form of that. And, you know, I've always thought of myself as sort of just elusive of those kind of categories. Like, I can't be pinned down a lot of the time. And it's why I've picked a career where I'm my own boss, where my personality is what thrives, because I guess I'm a little bit incensed by the fact that nowadays we have these categorizations of, you know, quote-unquote aberrant people who have, you know, ADHD or autism or anything like that, or you know, Asperger's, you know, personality disorders, mood disorders, stuff like that. And I don't really agree with the notion that these are illnesses or disorders which need to be cured through therapy and medication and so forth. You know, I think, you know, it's quite likely that I have ADD. It's quite likely that I am a little bit on the spectrum of autism. It's quite likely that I have a little psychopath in me, and I know that I'm a major depressive, and I'm on, you know, 20 milligrams of Lexapro daily for that. But what I've been thinking about a lot lately is whether or not it is fair to categorize people as aberrant when they are like this. Why don't we see it more in a positive light of these people being different from what is considered the norm, the neurotypical? Why is it that the eccentric are, you know, so left of center, so right of center, so off? Why do we use these words to describe these people? And why are we so threatened by things that are different than what is considered the norm in this country? I mean, for instance, people who have ADD, my sister is in the medical field, and she believes that, you know, probably 90% of the populace have some amount of ADHD or ADD. And I think the only reason we call it a disorder is because to be unfocused, to be easily distractible, to be shiftless, to be these things are so anti-American in a sense, because we live in a country where a work ethic and concentration and, you know, an ability to commit to one thing and to obey orders are positive traits. And are they positive? I'm not sure, but is it negative to not have those same, you know, morals and ethics? Like, what does it mean when someone is easily distractible? What does it really mean? I just think it means that they're easily distractible, but are they disordered? Or is there something wrong with them? I'm not so sure. And I think that's kind of a message that I really want to put forth through my channel, is that if you're weird, if you're eccentric, if you're disordered, if you're depressed, if you're autistic, if you're any of those things, there's nothing wrong with that, and you shouldn't be ashamed. You should embrace who you are. Because I really believe that that's what makes the world go round, and that's what makes art on such a platform as this really thrive, is the ability to find people who are interesting and unique and not normal. You know, maybe we subscribe to certain people who are normal, and there's nothing wrong with that either, but nonetheless, many of my subscriptions belong to people who are anything but. You know, Sky Williams is a functional psychopath. Frank Miller is a maniac. I mean, an absolute maniac. That guy has the mind of a madman. Like, absolutely. You know, we have a guy that, you know, makes cake out of vomit. Like, where else can you find that and that to be accepted, you know? We really need to advance a more positive narrative for the edgy, the risque, the different, the eccentric. And that's what I've always tried to put forward, you know. And you know, maybe it's controversial, maybe we're in a PC state where these things were not easily accepted, you know. But I'm going to stand up and I'm going to advance the dialogue in my own way. And I'm going to be as weird and wild and idiosyncratic as I want to be. I'm going to embrace it. Because I don't think that there's anything typical about any of us. And I think that our country, as it stands, is too politically sensitive, and yet at the same time too politically numb. Too unable to break away from appeals to tradition, to old American values that maybe are not really holding up for us anymore. You know, why do we have a bipartisan system? Why is it that every 4 to 8 years, a large group, a large portion, a large demographic of Americans gets disenfranchised by the newly elected leader? Why is it that compromise across the aisle is considered such a rare thing, and to many a negative thing? Why is it that CNN says we shall not compromise with Republicans and Fox says we shall not compromise with Democrats? Why is compromise a dirty word? I mean, my favorite president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he thrived on compromise. And whatever happened to that? When are we going to get to a point where we can stand in unity as Americans? And to embrace the differences between all of us? I don't know. Maybe this is vague, maybe this isn't that substantive of a position to take, and maybe it doesn't make sense, maybe I'm just rambling. But I feel inspired today, and so I'm going to share that with you. I'm happy to be on this platform, I'm happy to be making content. I know that I don't have that many subscribers, I know that I'm an incredibly flawed content creator who has to work on his stuff, but let me tell you, I feel so free when I'm creating this stuff, and I encourage anyone who needs to find a voice to really embrace this platform, to embrace themselves, and to embrace, you know, an artistic way of life, because we're all different, and we all need to be heard. We all like to be heard. We all desire that form of acceptance. So yeah, that's, you know, quote and rant. We're back in it. Let's get back to the game. Interpique, yeah, yo, yeah, yo, yeah, yo, yeah, yo, yeah, yo, yeah, yo, la 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 la. See, I noticed I got a haircut recently, and I'm pretty sure that the stylist purposefully fucked up my haircut because I went in there with like 9 months of growth on my head, and I didn't really give a shit about his tips for preserving my scalp. I just kind of smiled and said okay while he was talking about how to quote-unquote stay sharp. So yeah, I think he fucked up my haircut on purpose. But nonetheless, it's short now, which means that people will smile at me without reservation. I was talking with my mom about something on the way home, about how it seems like when I go to the store with 9 months of growth on my head, and like my weird, colorful clothing and shit on, it seems like I get looks from certain people that are just like downright full of animosity. And it's funny because until I verbalized it, I didn't realize how absurd it was. My mom was busting up because I was telling her how sometimes I go to the store or I go out in public and like I get looked at a certain way by someone, and it's like they'll look at me, they'll take one look at me, and then all of a sudden they're smirking or they're shaking their head. And I'm like, hey, what's wrong, man? I'm at the grocery store. Am I not allowed to be here? And I just feel like they're all thinking in their head like, oh, you shouldn't have went outside today. We don't like your type around these parts in the grocery store. It's just weird how I get very judgmental vibes from people. And I'll talk to like peers at school who are in sociology or a similar field, psychology, who say things like, It's just sociologically normal for people to look at the strange ones as being a kind of virus almost that needs to be purged. Like, you're basically an invader. You're basically a threat to the norm of society. And you know, it's a little bit healthy to be somewhat normal. And I'm like, no, man, no. I don't like that. I'm not about that life. I want to be fucking weird. I want to be eye-catching. I want to be out there. All really self-absorbed things to say, I know, but hey, that's what I want. That's what I want. What do you guys want? Anyway, it's been another fun episode. I haven't gotten to the boss yet, but I thought this was a great platform to get some of my thoughts out today. We'll get back into the game in the next vid. Let's take on Flavius. Let's get it, baby. Let's get it. Let's go. See you next time.